The object is bypass OBS altogether. No encoder, just straight right on to Restream. So if you're in the chat, again, thank you for your patience. We had some technical difficulties, cut off of one stream, and I started again, but I thought, well, let me just reset it. And I thought, well, let me do this as the fakeologist does it. And I was on the other day with Lynn, Ertel, and Ab, fakeologist. So it was a trifecta of media fakery analysts. It's an interesting talk, but it's all Restream and none of this other nonsense. I mean, I lose a few things, like we don't have Godzilla, but no big deal. The whole purpose is that we have to maintain the flow of information. We have to have the crowdsourced intel constantly arriving. So we have so much to parse through. IPS is like a fake news wood chipper. So I figure for the next half hour or so, we can test this out. And if this doesn't crash, then I won't worry about the other thing for the time being. I probably need to put some thought into this. Maybe I need to hire professional help with maybe setting up Streamlabs and a better system setup all around. But for the time being, I'll use this. So again, thanks for your patience. We were talking about Elon Musk and the rabid left's visceral hatred for him, and how there's this meme going around of Musk. It says this is the enemy. And I've been talking about how this is actually right out of the madness. And I've been predicting the news based on the madness. I've been saying that they depicted Musk as he is right now, now rising, as this co-president, as the fourth branch of government. Elon Musk is now in the capacity, in the role that he was in the madness. And in that series, in that show, they even intimated that he stole the election. Yeah, the sound should be fine. This is far simpler than what I've been using. But we're looking at Elon Musk right now as a world stage character who's been put into this role that's been forecast in the role of in this series, the madness. Which another aspect to it, let me bring this up, is you have a number of right wing type figures who have also these counterparts in the show. Laura Loomer is Laura Jennings. Mark Simon is based on Stu Peters or Nick Fuentes, who has been targeted with death threats. And the whole idea here is that these are enemies of the people. And that's why CEO killer Luigi Mangione has t-shirts being sold in the shopping malls here. We were just looking at some graffiti, some free Luigi graffiti. And this is basically a folk hero, but they condone the killing of a CEO. We were talking about why in the previous segment that it's all conditioning, and the CEO to the left, is like this. It's been vilified. They're destroying Gaia. Their greed, their deregulation is responsible for everything, and that's what this whole thing with U.S. aid and the funding being cut is really about. The left wing gets to say, look, the anti-government people are endangering us all. They uh, pulled back on the number of people working in the air control, and now look what happened. So they're able to blame deregulation. They blamed Trump for the train derailments. So they're saying the anti-government people are dooming us all. Meanwhile, the Musk Trump side see themselves as having saved us, or they're saving us from overgrown bureaucracy. I think that Musk even said that we don't have a democracy. We have I think he called it I'm not, something with bureaucratocracy or something. But anyway, it's the pro-government versus anti-government tug of war, nothing new. And it's all theater. If it wasn't, Musk would be exposing the malfeasance of NASA. The fact that he doesn't is really quite revealing. Okay, we're back on the audio streams. All right, joined by Esteban, Lean Dion, Osher, Jay Nelson, and others. Okay, yeah, this is just kind of a test. This is a backup. The regular OBS may not be effective, and this is kind of a throwback to how the IPS started, where originally it was just very simple and it was just chat oriented. We can live without Godzilla, and it has screen share and audio share, and as long as it can take calls, then we're fine. We're absolutely fine. So we'll just continue on. Lots of things have been happening this week I wanted to catch up on, but let's go through my minds.com. So Luigi again raised $300,000 in his legal defense. And this is the image that's going around. Bureaucracy. Yeah, well, he was Musk is basically fulfilling a role here. But if he was really against uh, malfeasance in government, and I mean, think about it, the psyop entertainment complex. Nobody knows about it. And some people don't like it when I say this, that there is no military industrial complex. That's really just an illusion of the psyop entertainment complex. But I do think that most people, specifically truthers, are underestimating the significance of fakery. They'll look at a crisis actor and then just think that's the end of it, or they'll look at one event and that's the end of it. But no, you got to look at who's attached to the event: law enforcement, politicians, the first responders, the hospitals, who's involved in these drills presented as real, the DHS. How big of a conspiracy is there behind even the smallest of psychological operations? And this is where I think the focus needs to be. If you're not focused on deconstructing fake news, then you're a propaganda mule at best. Elon Musk is the enemy. This is the image that's circulating, and people are calling for Luigi. So, and again, as I said, in the madness, the Musk guy gets killed. And they sent there was that individual with the cyber truck who had it blown up in front of the Trump Tower, sending a message to Trump and to CEO Musk. And I think that's kind of relevant too, that the guy was a Green Beret. And there's some kind of a symbolic connection between the Green Beret CEO killer and Luigi, also associated with the Luigi with the green hat. There's these kind of connections that I've been looking at here, but it all kind of follows the story of a representative of the people taking out one of the power elite, and it being something laudable, vigilante justice. Now, I mentioned this on the last segment. The Captain America is about to come out, and this is the one that had the scene where the president is shot at while he's giving a speech. And this has him, tossed to the ground just like Trump. And this trailer came out just before 7/13/2024. And as a result of the trailer's resemblance to what just happened to Trump, they changed the trailer. Well, that movie is about to come out. And here's a short excerpt from an article, Entertainment News. Fans of the 1940s Captain America point out that the message in the latest film are true to those Nazi bashing comic strips, which were created in response to European fascism and America's isolationism during World War II. The film will be released internationally Wednesday and hits the cinemas on Friday here in the US. So there's a further tie into the idea that Trump is some kind of a fascist, and Captain America, this movie coming out, I think it will have some predictive programming, so I will have to watch it. But in addition to the timing of the trailer being released, the president is played by Harrison Ford. And I think there's some connection. He's shot in the theater, Ford Theater. His birthday, 7/13, Caesar's birthday. Trump was at the Caesar's Palace football game, and we were talking about the significance of Caesar. He was portrayed as Julius Caesar in the Caesar in the Park play where he was killed. He was he is really the basis for the character Caesar in Megalopolis, who gets there's an assassination attempt which he survives. But we were discussing this stuff the other night, and so the timing of Captain America is interesting because the antagonist to him is this character called Sidewinder, who is the same antagonist to the Trump character in Megalopolis, who is the same antagonist to the Trump character in a show called The Boys. The Homelander has an antagonist, Edgar, same actor. So there's this dynamic that I'm seeing here, and I think this character represents Obama. But in this Captain America from the trailer, the president becomes this Red Hulk, which I think represents MAGA in its final form. So I think there's some significant symbolism in it, and it's going to be highly portentous. And the fact that they've already altered the trailer because it's so closely aligned with the Trump assassination attempt tells you that it's all propaganda. Truman B3000 says Tom McDonald Macklemore new song video supports the left-wing ideology. So many similarities between McDonald and Macklemore. Deep fakes likely. I've seen some comparisons, but I don't know. Um, it, I don't know. It's possible. It truly is. McDonald does look like a creation, like they made him in some intelligence agency, bunker. Just some totally manufactured character. Looks like he's made to be a propaganda vector to specifically target right wingers in this culture war. But it's so plugged in to mainstream news. It's not really organic. It's not street level. It's not some independent artist. But he's as mainstream as Fox News, probably funded from the same source. I don't know. I don't trust these characters, especially when all of their talking points are coming from mainstream sources and they don't question the fundamental reality of what's being presented on the news. So Tom McDonald will rap all kinds of patriotic stuff, pro-Trump stuff, but he's never going to talk about Trump faking the ear wound. He wouldn't rap about that, not to his sizable audience, and that's because he's controlled. And that's pretty much the case, I think, with anybody who reaches mainstream. If they don't call stuff out as fake, they're either dupes, propaganda mules, or agents. There's no other option. Truman B says, right, tats look fake. Yeah, yeah. Well, he did that recent rap with Roseanne Barr, and she's an interesting one as well. There are some of these comedians, and it seems like there's like quite a few of them who all move in the same circles, who seem to be specifically used as propaganda vectors for the right wing. Certain comedians and certain MMA fighters, all with the same talking points, and they never mix with like real people and content creators. Like you get these very what's that one, Thug Nasty, one of these MMA fighters, Bryce something, and he's always talking about QAnon, the Earth being flat, all these crazy conspiracy theories, but he doesn't make the circuit on YouTube. He doesn't create any real content on it. It's like he's given talking points. And by the way, I was just thinking about this because Alex Jones is not censored. They've overturned the ruling. The courts are not going to be allowed. The judge is not going to allow the other side to take InfoWars from him. So he's safe, if you didn't know. But I was going to point out, as far as like martyrs go and people sacrificing for the truth, Shaq lost $20 million for talking about the earth being flat several times. I mean, he made these really bizarre statements. He said he remembered flying to China. He didn't remember flipping upside down. He said something about the moon, how he could see the moon and how I don't know. I couldn't quite understand his reasoning, but he made some valid points about how we arrive at information and how easily we can be manipulated. But I don't think he ever affirmatively said that this is the case, that the earth is a pancake. But anyway, it's pretty well established that um, that whole topic is gate kept and guardrailed and misrepresented. But even though he was just playfully talking about it, talking about Shaq, he said he lost $20 million in contracts, in potential gigs. Did Alex Jones lose $20 million? I don't think so. Okay, let's go ahead and let's see. Bill Hicks might save the day, says Stuart McKenzie. I don't have an issue with any of these mainstream conspiracy theorists, whether it's an Alex Jones or uh, what's his name, the reptilian guy, David Icke. I wish David Icke had stuck to reptiles, honestly. I think that was a pretty good niche. And for some reason, he let it go. I think peer pressure. But no, here's Alex Jones. breaking news as usual, but totally a hype man for Trump. And the sense of urgency is gone now that Trump has won. You can only hype stuff up for so much, for so long, and I have kind of a bit of fatigue about the whole thing. Marcus got the insider, very cool. Thanks. I'm glad you got that. And as you'll notice, the margin's a little wider than it should have been. That's an issue with the Canva template, which they're fixing. So I'm ordering the next batch, and Insider number 2 is going to be published in a few days. And you still have a few days if you want to have any submissions put in. You have until the end of the week. And I will send free copies right now to anybody who creates content to be published in the IPS Insider. I prefer to pay or give advertising space or free copies, either or all the above. So you know how to contact me. Buck Precision says, David Icke claimed to be the Messiah when he started out. Everyone forgets this. He had credibility with me because he was part of the Green Party. So he seemed like, oh, he's an insider. He's calling out Al Gore. But then he came across all these new age types and satanic ritual abuse types, which is the equivalent of like Pizzagate. And he took it all literally. And so I don't know if he was duped or if he really believes it. And then he kind of tried to reinvent himself, I think, by going to South America and trying out ayahuasca. And so that story, the tales in the time loop, I don't know. He's in a different niche, and I think his niche might be this. Alex Jones is conspiracy theorist slash Christian, like right wing Christian nationalism. Uh, David Icke is against religions, all of them, but he is a believer in simulation theory and in Gaia, and not simulation theories in a computer simulation, but as in everything being an illusion and consciousness being imprisoned in matter, kind of a Gnostic take. So I kind of see David Icke as maybe even filling a certain role in the marketplace of ideas, and it might be a role that is necessary. I'm not calling him a shill, but I don't know. There's a point where it's like I kind of have to question someone who doesn't call out the media fakery, and he does not. Again, this is the line here. If you're not calling out media fakery, then you're either not paying attention or you're underestimating its significance. And we need to start calling people out on it in a very direct way. Like, what is your take on this? Because the sense of urgency that comes with, oh, they're sacrificing people or they're really killing people is what drives a lot of the paranoia and fear driven conspiracy narratives. And we're not really with that. I've kind of noticed um, that we kind of moved away from that. I mean, I don't push anything that's fear based. If anything, I say don't be afraid of 5G towers. Take off your tinfoil hat. Enjoy breathe in the chemtrails. They're good for you. But I do like a lot of his work. However, he's a satanic ritual abuse, Pizzagate, QAnon adjacent type who does push all these ideas. And I don't think it's true. I don't think that Al Gore drinks blood. I mean, no, he does. I think Al Gore actually does. But I don't think that Hillary Clinton is a satanic witch who drinks adrenochrome. And I look at all these people who are accused of being adrenochrome junkies, and they're aging and they're dying. Where are these immortals? Stuart McKenzie said Ike sure did dodge flat Earth. Well, I think that he did, and a lot of people did, but because they're looking at it too literally. I'm more interested in the question. And so, like, how do you arrive at that? What makes that even plausible? And when you look at the question, it gets into the realm of epistemology and perception and how we perceive and process information actively or passively, and whether we're using logic and reason or if we have a faith based interpretation of mass media events. And I think what we arrive at here is that the mainstream version of media that most people accept as real tacitly is largely tampered with. That we live on planet Netflix, we live in the Disney universe, and the propaganda is so saturates all the entertainment that it creates this echo chamber effect that you can't see the Truman Show from the inside, and everybody on the inside is going to protect it. They're going to lie. They're going to reinforce their belief systems and defend their preconceptions. But I think we need to get into the conversation here with some of these bigger conspiracy channels. Like, do you really think you're doing us a service by promoting these outlandish and horrifying myths? I mean, Ike is critical of Christianity and religion and mind control and manipulation, but you're doing the same thing at alt media. It's just updated stories, updated myths. Nothing's new. None of the stuff is new. QAnon's not new. It's all recycled. All right, let's see. I'm trying to. I'll figure this whole system out, but I'm pretty sure we have a better system. We just kind of stumbled into it. No more OBS. No more dropped frames or glitchiness, and I think we're good to go. I just have to make sure I'll test out the phones and the audio levels, but we'll be on a regular daily schedule, likely starting tomorrow. But getting back to David Icke, he's not unreachable. I know he was kind of annoyed that Joe Rogan didn't have him on, and Rogan talked to somebody else about reptilians and took it seriously. And so someone kind of co opted that from him. But again, the reptilian thing was censored. The ADL went after David Icke because they claimed that he was actually just recycling anti Semitic conspiracy theories and just replacing it with reptilians, which does seem to be the case. I was kind of more interested in his analysis of symbolism because he was really up to speed on logos, weird occult signatures on massive psyop events. Bach Precision said I saw Donut interview him. He's kind of an outsider. I've seen him try to distance himself. He calls it the mainstream alternative media. But I understand that because we've done the same thing. But he hasn't gone far enough. And there isn't anybody at his level of popularity with his following, with that number of people following him, that go over the rails. No one. I mean, think about how small a minority we are within Trutherville, and how even what we talk about daily is minimized, ignored, because people are caught up in the drama of the psyopera. And people are caught up in it, like Musk and Trump and the deep state and all these stories. But the fact of it is, all of this is theater. And I think people are attached to it. I'm not. The off world stage perspective is far more valid and reasonable. Yeah, a regular schedule. So I'm talking 6:30 p.m. Mountain Time daily. I don't think that would be a difficult one, and I think we'd get the highest number of people. I think we can get higher than 300. Our numbers were going up. Thank you, Salt Siren says, loving the art display behind you. I was realizing how crooked a lot of the paintings are. That's not intentional. I have to go through and fix them. We didn't have an earthquake. It's just that when they're listed on eBay, I find it easier to have them up on the wall for purposes of order fulfillment. And I have kind of changed my focus to using art to fund everything, and it's picking up. I have like 100 followers on eBay. I've sold more than 1,400 individual works of art through that store. So you can trust me, you will get your art. And then I had this a couple of years ago. I was focused on charcoal and I was doing a lot of charcoal work, but I had a problem because I couldn't get any of the stuff into the mail and to the customer intact because the charcoal will crumble. It transfers to the envelope. It's just really hard to preserve it. And when you use the spray preservatives that were available, it would destroy the gradients and the darks and the contrast, and it would leave it kind of this almost graphite-y, silvery sheen. It just destroyed the work. So I just set the stuff aside. But then I came across this other fixative by Krylon, a fine art fixative in a blue can, and it specifically says will preserve charcoal and will not diminish your highlights or gradients. So I've got several hundred drawings that I'm going through, and I'm spraying the ones that are sellable and listing them on eBay as fast as I can. But I've caught up on that, and so now I can begin my regular schedule. Yes, I do have analytics, and it tells me the numbers and where people are listening from. And we do get our best numbers like 6 to 9 p.m. my time. Salty says my charcoal skull arrived perfectly. Yeah, that charcoal skull, I think I recall that one. And I used a fixative, and if it's just black charcoal, it's almost okay if it's not a whole lot of gradients, and if I'm not using white charcoal. But the stuff I'm using now is foolproof. I checked it out. It's perfect. I found it on the random. I was just kind of researching on YouTube. But has anybody else solved this problem yet? Glenn says Yolanda at her True Love channel at YouTube is a kindred auto hoaxer. Okay, good, good. I'm going to take note of this because what I want to do is get all of the auto hoaxers on the same sheet. This is why we need to have AutoHoaxCon this year. We need to have all of the people who recognize the extent of fakery and the significance of it, and how the psyop entertainment complex is a thing. It's monolithic, and how it's all integrated. We need to get all of us on the same sheet and just get the numbers up, and then we'll go from there. But we are creating something here. It's a divergence. We are creating a third branch of media. You got mainstream, alternative. Well, we got the parallel media. We're not anti. We're not trying to stop the mainstream because the alternative media are just as bad. And we're not trying to stop them. We're not wasting our time. What we're doing is we're aggregating on our own, creating our own media ecosystem. And it's a more educated and enlightened audience, and content creators are going to be what builds it. And the more we network with other content creators, we do panels, we merge our audiences. And it's not about coming to a consensus agreement about anything. Really, it's not. I mean, you can believe in the moon landing if you choose, but it's about having the basis of active media consumers with psyop awareness. If you don't include in your calculation of it as to what's happening in the world, the influence of perception management psyops in the news, you're in a fictional universe. I mean, the fake news is a fact. Not everything's fake. Nobody says that. A small percentage is fake, but the stuff that is fake drives the larger narratives of real news, and all of it gets put into the history books. So we do live in a worldview that is held together in a consensus agreement by what? By history. And our shared history is provably bent, tampered with, manipulated, infused with narratives that drive the public along predictable channels. So there's no point in denying it and pretending like it's real, or pretending like being anti-mainstream media somehow makes you truthier. It doesn't. In fact, truthers are major league liars these days. They put clicks over truth, and they traffic in paranoia and long debunked conspiracy theories. And we don't do conspiracy theories here. Mainstream news is built on conspiracy theories. What we're doing is entirely different. It's more philosophical anyway. But we're the vanguard of something that should potentially snowball into something big. And I don't know how they're going to control it. I'm not going to just wake up one day and suddenly decide that I'm going to have faith and trust that everything I see is true. And you can't even argue that the moral high ground goes to the mainstream news believer, knowing how deep fakeable everything is. But the naivety is just unparalleled. People are just so trusting. They trust their blue checks. But yeah, we'll definitely make an effort here to reach out to different. In fact, that's one of the things I would like to do is I would like to interview content creators in this arena and transcribe those interviews and put them into the Insider. I already started that. We had pre some kind of like prototypes. I was trying to figure out how to do this tabloid thing, and so I did this fake world news, and I interviewed John LeBon, printed it out, put some of his work, and put a QR code to get the MP3. And then I did a follow up one where I talked to Who was the guy that was walking around Ukraine? Les Luther. And we were talking about his concept of illusion warfare. And he arrived at the same conclusion that we did, that the term psyop and hoax, the terms psyop, hoax, false flag, these terms are vague and they're malappropriated. They're used by different interests. You can't really even, like, even the word psyop was mainstreamed with the Pentagon saying that Taylor Swift showing up at the Super Bowl is not a psyop. So we have to be precise in our language, and illusion warfare is good because it emphasizes illusion. False flag theory needed to go because false flag assumes things to be real. The term hoax minimizes the event. It makes it seem like this is an isolated event and maybe this group tricked everyone else. Like this Democrat agenda driven psyop tricked everybody in order to convince people to give up their guns. Like these psyops are not partisan. I mean, they have partisan agendas, but it's not like one side is psyoping against the other side for leverage or advantage. No, they both share the same special effects. They don't out each other's hoaxes. So the term I use is simulated news event because what is a mass casualty simulation event but a pre-scripted story, a worst case scenario that's acted out? And when you have a psychological operation, a fake shooting, a fake terror attack, it's really just a drill presented as real. I mean, look what happened in with the Black Hawk and the AA flight. It was a drill when the thing got hit. Now, I don't believe it was real for a lot of reasons, namely the drills. Drills tend to go along with these hoaxes where it's really easy. You have the infrastructure for a psyop if you have the infrastructure for a drill. It's just a matter of context, how it's presented. Okay, let's see. Someone here had mentioned a channel. Stewart says we should infiltrate large channels like Asmongold. And Salty says Asmongold. That dude said he used a dead rat as an alarm clock and knew the sun was up because it cooked the carcass into stinking him awake. Now, would that only work once, or is that something you could do repeatedly? I don't know. Never heard of a stinking rat carcass alarm clock. Okay, let's roll on here. A lot of people here who think that that Kanye West has been oppressed or he's being censored by his particular scapegoat. Uh, no, he went against Shopify's terms of service when it comes to selling swastika T-shirts, and I don't think he was seriously trying to make any money with it. You wouldn't outsource that to a third party. You know, if I was managing Ye's swastika shirt supply, I would have it all put into a warehouse. I would hire some minimum. I'd just have his gimp do it and have her pack the shirts and lick the stamps. Anyway, he's off X and he's off Shopify. So what now? That's what happens when you rely on shock. I mean, nobody was impressed by his appearance at the Grammys. Okay, let's see here. Breaking fighter jet crashes into SoCal Harbor, 2 pilots ejected. Internet reacts to golden hoofed Trump cash covered goat idol at Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, so there's a goat statue at Mar-a-Lago covered in $100 bills, and it says, "In Trump we trust." And that goes along with Trump being, of course, God. He had his apotheosis, and then he has his signature on the bottom. You know, we were having a conversation in Gilded about Donald Trump's signature and what it looks like. Let me see if I can pull that up here. People had some interesting speculation on it. I said that his signature looks like a seismograph for an 8.8 magnitude earthquake hitting Seattle. Here we go. Violet says it looks like a lie detector test, like he's a liar. And Kevin Mooring says it looks like a heartbeat. So Donald Trump's signature, what is it? Is it a heartbeat, a lie detector test, and he's just lying with every breath because his mouth is moving? Or is it a seismogram for an 8.8 magnitude earthquake hitting Seattle? And he's just off signing all these executive orders after executive orders, renaming things. What is it, Gulf of Trump? Mar-a-Lago is gearing to be a future royal capital like Versailles was to Paris, says Bach Precision. Interesting. Yeah, that's probably true. And there was the raid on Mar-a-Lago coincided with the date Nixon resigned. All kinds of interesting things about Mar-a-Lago. They have a Ark of the Covenant there. They got the goat god statue thing, whatever that's supposed to be about. So I have to learn how to use this new system. It's not the same OBS, and I want to spend a little time checking it out. So we'll have it running tomorrow. We will be on a regular schedule starting tomorrow. 6:30 p.m. is what makes the most sense to me. So hopefully that works for everyone. And we'll go by the numbers. And if I need to change it, I will. But I think that's where we're going to go. Joe Santos says lie detector. Technically, yes. If you're a main streamer, if you're on the world stage, even if you're an honest person, you are a liar from the perspective of objective reality. It's built upon an edifice of lies. You might be on the news and you might be saying, "Yeah, the sky is blue." Yeah, it's true, but the entity that you're representing, that media organization, believes all the psyops, all the fake news, literally. And so it rests upon an edifice of lies. It's selective in its bias of what it shows. It conceals by ignoring things. So it's like a magic show, and it's just misdirection and illusion all around. So yeah, technically, uh, I call it the lie world order because it makes a liar out of everyone. Joe Santos says Trump's son posted his dad as a goat looking in the mirror. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that. And JL says the goat's a reference to Capricorn and the and Elvis, who's a Capricorn. Of course, Elvis and Trump. What's the connection between Elvis and Trump? People ask. It's like, do you really want to know? I mean, it really is intriguing and it's undeniable, especially after that recent thing where during the Saturnalia festival in Megalopolis, which is Make Rome Great Again, Megalopolis, that's the connection they made in the movie. There's an Elvis character singing the Trump inauguration song America the Beautiful while wrapped in an American flag. Then Trump goes to DC with Melania, and the first thing they see, there's an Elvis impersonator for some weird reason in the White House. So, like, I don't know what that's about. All right, so this is Dinosaurs in Space, Chief Crow and the Flat Earthworms. Thank you all for your patience. I know we've had a lot of off and on, a lot of gremlins, but we're definitely moving along now. Truman B says fake war still raging in Ukraine. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's like if a war happens in some far off area and the mainstream news isn't spotlighting it, does it even happen? Is it even real? And no, we live in a solipsistic system where if it's not focused upon by world media, it's not happening. This is Chief Crow, Dinosaurs.